Hello, welcome to the Retro Game Club Podcast, Season 5, Episode 20, which is also Episode 156. I am Rob, and joining me is my co-host who now charges 20 cents per install, Hugh.
That's right, and it's retroactive, so every time you've downloaded a podcast I've been on, you owe me 20 cents.
Yeah, yeah. Or if you've downloaded Speedrun Tower and stuff like that.
Anything. You got anything that I've built, it's 20 cents, please.
Per install, yeah.
Per install, yeah.
So what's been happening? We actually haven't talked in a while because our recording schedule is kind of like we would record the week before the episode was due, and this time we're recording when it's due, so it's been like 3 weeks.
Yeah, I've just been busy. It's mostly on me. I've had extremely busy work stuff, and my kid has got a lot of after-school stuff going on right now, and, you know, since 2020, I've tried to be the parent that does all the driving around because I'm working from home now.
You have a minivan yet?
No, I'm no chance. Never. I only have one kid living at home right now, so what do I need a minivan for?
Yeah, it's sports car time.
Oh, I thought, I looked at that, but I can't. That's not the way I'm going to have a midlife crisis.
DeLorean? Nothing? No,
nothing like that. No, I did look at the, off topic, I did look at like the Dodge Charger a few years ago, but I'm like, do I really want to spend like $100 a week on gas?
Well, and also, let me ask you one simple question.
Yeah.
Do you use your blinker when you switch lanes?
Well, not in the city, because that's a bad idea.
Oh, I was going to, because, I don't think Chargers have blinkers, because I've never seen anyone driving one use one.
Yeah, so if you drive in, this is a tip for anyone, if you ever have to drive in Chicago or even the suburbs, like any of the expressways, if you're going to change lanes and you put your blinker on, it means that the car in the lane you want to switch to is going to floor it.
I've noticed that, yeah.
They see the blinker, they floor it. So the best thing to do is change and then tap the blinker once you're already in the other lane.
As like a courtesy.
Yeah, like, oh, by the way, I'm getting in this lane that I'm already in. But yeah, do not ever use the blinker because it's just going to lead to the guy flooring it.
Have you been up to anything video gamey lately?
No, I put a few notes down. One of them is I saw that Atari bought Atari Age, and I'm like, that seems really newsworthy, but I actually don't have any opinion at all. Like, Atari wants to own the most popular Atari forum, I guess. Fine, good for them. It may mean that certain topics might disappear. I don't know. I have no idea what Atari's going to do. Like, if you put up a thread up saying, the new Atari HDMI system is a total ripoff, is Atari going to, like, quietly delete it? I don't know. Who cares?
It makes me think we should start a forum like that hasn't been started yet, like Engage Age or something
Engage
like that.
Age?
Yeah, that's a hard one to say. Yeah.
You'd be surprised. As someone who owns a lot of obscure systems, I've run into a lot of forums for obscure systems.
Yeah.
I mean, the PCFX had a forum, right? Like, that wasn't even sold in this country. It had a forum.
Yeah. Early Silicon graphics machines still have a pretty robust forum.
Yeah, I know Next Step has a pretty active forum because I had a boxed copy of Next Step OS, and it was just taking up space. Next Step OS, if you don't know what it is, Google it. But the box is huge. And I'm literally one day, I just like, Next Step forum. And I found like a guy that ran a Next Step forum, and I sent him a photo. I'm like, if you send me the cost of shipping, this is yours. and he sent me the cost of shipping that day.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I watched the Nintendo Direct, that's gaming related, and I think at this point, if we made a parody, like a April Fool's Nintendo Direct that was just announcements of remakes, would anybody figure out it was a joke?
Specifically DS remakes too. Well,
Yeah.
I guess there was more than that, but if it was like all DS remakes and Wii U ports,
Yeah, Wii, GameCube, DS remakes.
Yeah. I don't think anyone would notice or even think it would. I think they would actually be angry that it was a parody, that it didn't happen. And hey, to counter that, I love it. People like us always say they should be preserving video games so we could play them. We don't have to pirate them, and Nintendo's doing it. But, it's gotten to that point.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I'm going to pre-order the Paper Mario remake, I guess. Mm-hmm. Maybe I already did. I forgot. So I don't like, I'm not knocking it. It's just, it seems like a couple Nintendo Directs ago, it was like 90% farming simulators. In the last 2 Nintendo Directs have been like 90% remakes, it seems like.
Do you think it's because the Super Switch, that's what I'm going to call it, the next Switch, because that's what I want it to be. Do you think the Super Switch got delayed so much where Nintendo was like, we've kind of gone and released everything we were going to release for the system. It's time to just port a few things so we can keep this going.
No, I actually kind of don't think that. I think they have probably seen the financials of how remakes do and have decided to keep pumping them out because they make a lot of money.
Yeah, I wish they would finally do Wind Waker. That would be nice.
Well, they did Wind Waker remake.
I mean, for the Switch,
the Switch,
for a system people own.
Right. It's the Wii U remake is really good, by the way. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do. Maybe that'll be a launch title for Switch 2, or they're not going to call it Switch 2. They're going to give it some new name.
It's going to be the new Switch XL Deluxe.
Something, yeah. I don't know. And then I saw a real live Miss Pac-Man cocktail cabinet at an estate sale. I'm going to put some photos of it up. Not a modern repro, like an original from the 1980s. I was driving, I saw a sign that said estate sale, and I got there, and let's just say the prices weren't great. Okay? So they were selling like an old jukebox for $2,500 was like one of the items there. And maybe a jukebox is worth $2,500. I don't know.
It depends the model, yeah.
It depends on the model, but like it also depends on how much of a hernia you want trying to get the thing out of there, right? And there's a lot. They had a lot of like home theater stuff, like higher end home theater stuff that was pretty expensive. And then down in the basement, they had a Miss Pac-Man cocktail cabinet, and it looked to be in good condition, but there was no price on it. And I asked, and again, everything in this house was like really overpriced. So I just said, like, are you guys selling that Miss Pac-Man cocktail cabinet? And they're like, well, the kids kind of like playing it, so we don't know what we're going to do yet. What are you thinking? And at this point, I had exactly $25 cash in my pocket. So I figured I wasn't going to get it for $25. And I talked to them for a little bit. It turns out they're looking around like $2,000 for it, which is about the going rate on like eBay for a working one. So it was neat, but I'm not going to buy it for $2,000.
I thought estate sales were supposed to be like, we're blowing this stuff out one day sale. Yeah,
some people have a hard time parting with, I recently, I had a family member pass away recently that my wife and I were in charge of the estate, and we didn't even do an estate sale. It's like, we were just doing a lot of trips to Goodwill. Like, we're not going to try and make a few bucks on this, just get all the stuff to Goodwill. It's all, all good, decent quality stuff. It's not been like eaten by rats or anything. It's just, clothing, furniture, that kind of stuff. Just get it out. Furniture goes to Habitat for Humanity. Clothing goes to Goodwill. I don't need to make money on any of this.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. But I think, I think their it sounded like the people I talked to was like their grandfather that died. And he had built like this, he had like a movie theater in the basement. So I think they were just trying to, I don't know, maybe there was a whole lot of debt. They have to figure out what to do. I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't really get into their life story. But I'm going to eventually post pictures of this thing. Anyways, I've been talking enough. What have you been up to?
Let's see. Yeah, I got a little list here because it's been so long since we recorded. I finally got like the day after we talked about it last time, I got the good ending of the Quarry, which I think was very worth it. And again, if you're looking for a Halloween-y game, play the Quarry. It is fantastic. I can't believe this game isn't like talked about a lot more. I bounced off Starfield. It felt like the biggest PS3 game ever made. And if I'm going to play a PS3 game, I'm going to play a PS3 game. No offense to anyone that likes it, it just wasn't for me. And I went and I factory defaulted my Steam Deck and put Batocera on it, so when the Steam Deck first came out, which is when I got it, there was a bunch of hacky ways to do a bunch of hacky stuff, which I did. And now you could do stuff without like rooting your Steam Deck. So I kind of redid that. It was actually a really simple process. And I actually installed the program to play your PS5 or PS4 remotely from it. And that works pretty well. Not very laggy. So no reason to buy that new PS5 portable thing for $199.
Yeah, I'm still tempted. Like, I don't have a PS5 yet, but that is tempting because there's a lot of times where, I kind of just want to play a game on the couch while someone else is watching something.
Exactly, yeah.
And the Switch, of course, is perfect for that, and the Vita was great for that. I don't know. It's tempting. We'll see. As I mentioned, I only have one kid living at home yet, so some of these things are less of a concern.
Yeah. And also with that PS5 thing, I was one of the people that waited just long enough for. Remember the PS TV? It's like the Vita without a screen.
Yeah, I know. I wish I bought one of those.
I got one. I almost bought two just because, but Amazon was blowing them out at the time for $11.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
so that's when I got mine. And the person at work sitting next to me said I was an idiot for buying one.
Oh,
So,
I also think you're an idiot for buying one. You should have bought 10.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I'd be able to retire now. Did you see you saw the Nintendo Direct, so you saw F-Zero 99?
Yeah, F-Zero Traffic Jam is what I saw one site refer to it as.
It is. I played it twice. It's a goofy game. You know what I mean? It's fun. Usually games like that, I'm like, why are they going to take this away someday? That's not cool. And with this one, I'm like, yeah, you don't need this forever. But it is kind of fun. It just gets so crazy. Mm-hmm. But they do test you. You have to do like 3 to 5 races against computers before they'll let you do the 99.
Oh, forget it.
Well, it's so simple though. It takes like 5 minutes. And I kind of like how they do the ranking system where depending on how many races you've done and how well you've done, you have like a nemesis. I forget the actual name they use, like 4 other nemesises. And if you beat them during the race or blow them up, you get a lot of extra points and you rank up. And I kind of like that. And then what else? Oh, a rare correction this week. We kind of have a we don't correct ourselves rule because who cares? If you're here for news, you're doing it wrong. Actual we've researched this stuff. But last episode I said Street Fighter 2 for the TurboGrafx needs a Super FX, and it doesn't. Actually has it. It has the extra RAM built in. And I'm kind of a TurboGrafx guy, so that was just kind of a little flub there. But we only have a few news items. I guess we should just bounce into them, right?
Let's talk about these things. First one I posted, a rare time that I've added news. There is this is something I'm kind of interested in. There is a fan translation for the kind of obscure Saturn game J.B. Harold Blues Chicago Blues.
Yeah.
Which is a sequel to J.B. Harold Murder Club, a game that I wrote a walkthrough and save RAM hacking guide to.
Yeah.
I really like the format of that game. I like the presentation. I like the way it works. I probably could write a game in that style pretty easily. I just am not a good storyteller, so I don't have a plot that it would work with. But mechanically recreating J.B. Harold, creating a J.B. Harold inspired game is probably pretty easy.
You could probably just use ChatGPT and ask it to create the story and then make the game.
Yeah, I guess I could get a ChatGPT account. I could ask it to create a murder mystery for me. But I mean, the game engine, the little kind of game engine I wrote up for the Genesis, I think I could write a J.B. Harold style game in it pretty quickly. I just need time. But anyhow, this is for the Sega Saturn version. It's kind of crazy. Yeah, there's other additions. It's on other platforms. They picked the Saturn. So you have to have a copy of the game. However you got that is really none of my business. And then you can play it in English, but this never had a English release before, I don't believe.
Which is crazy because, I mean, this is in America, right?
Yeah. I mean, the first game didn't really fly off the shelves,
Yeah, yeah. That's funny.
It does say, okay, so if I read this, it does say there is a laser active version that came out to the US. But who had a laser active?
Yeah, yeah.
So that's neat.
Yeah, that was not in my 2023 bingo for sure.
No.
Up next, just quickly, that 1995 Genesis Gargoyles game. It's getting a remake.
Okay.
Did you get a chance to look at the video at all?
Yeah, I did. Unfortunately, I looked at it like a week ago. The thing about Gargoyles is, the 1995 part's really important. Like, this was a very late Genesis release. I realize that Genesis got releases for like another 2-3 years. But at this point, 32X is out. Saturn came out in 95. I'm trying to remember if the Saturn was out before Gargoyles came out, but whatever
like
the case,
PlayStation, like people were ready for the next thing, is what you're saying.
Yeah. So this is a late release, and it was a pretty good looking Genesis game at the time. But I don't think it was a big seller because, like you said, people were ready to move on.
My thing is, it's kind of like the, what was that Wonder Boy game that we both played that you could flip between modern and old graphics?
The Dragon's Curse.
Yeah. You could do that same thing where on the fly you could go between the original graphics and new graphics, and I like that because I like the original graphics. These new graphics are beautiful, but I just like the pixel art. They just knocked it out of the park with that. And you can now rewind, which it was not an easy game. So I appreciate the rewind. So I'll probably pick this up for the Switch, not for, it's $35. That's not so bad. Yeah, I'll probably get it for the Switch. It's out for everything.
Yeah, I'm probably going to pass on it. It's not, but most excited. I have way too much to play already.
Yeah. And then a late edition here. This is on Wired.com. They do a little write-up / interview type thing of the creator of Space Invaders for the 45th anniversary, and it's getting a 1/4 cabinet re-release. It's not a one-up machine, and just a very good write-up. For people like us, a lot of it is, yeah, I know, but I think I learned a thing or two in this, and I just like reading about this stuff. Like simple things like, how as you kill the aliens and there's less aliens, everything speeds up. That's because of the processor.
Because of the processor. I knew that part, yeah.
Yeah, so a bunch of little things like that, little nice tidbits. So I definitely recommend that article.
Yeah, I mean, I read something quite a while ago that referred to Space Invaders as like the first killer app, and it was referring to the 2600. Because, the Atari 2600, that was the thing that people were buying it for early on, was Space Invaders is a game that the 2600 can pretty accurately recreate. Mm-hmm. There's not a big degradation going arcade to home version. Unlike, I know that someone made a better version of Pac-Man for the 2600, but the Pac-Man that was on 2600 was not, very close to the...
or Donkey Kong.
Or any of them, but Space Invaders, that was like... That was it, man. That was exactly like the arcade version. I know it maybe didn't look quite as good, but...
even that contest that Burger Becky won, that contest wasn't on the cabinet. It was on a bunch of 2600s.
Yeah.
So yeah, pretty cool. And I'm pretty sure that's been a Game Club game.
Yeah, it has to have been.
Speaking of Game Club, we got some games.
Yeah, a couple of games, yeah.
I'll just, mine's up there first. I'll do mine. One of my all-time favorite games in this world, King's Quest III to Heir is Human. So growing up, my cousin had an Apple II, and then we got a 2GS after that. And, one of the first, I guess I'd call it open world games. One of the first games ever, I guess I've seen, was King's Quest 1 and 2, because he had them, and I just adored those games. And when I saw King's Quest 3, we got it with my Apple II GS. I was hooked. I just love this game. You play Gwydion. You are captive to the wizard Mananan. For some reason, I always pronounce that wrong, but I think I got it. And you have to try to get home by using a magic map and killing the wizard with one of the coolest copy protection methods, which it came with a spell book, and you had to type in these spells. And if you did it even one letter or one character wrong, meaning like a space or something, you would die. You know, if you were trying to create the cookie that could turn someone into a cat, and you did it wrong, you know, you would turn into a cat or a hat cat or a fly or something like that. And it's kind of broken up into two games before you get on the boat and then after. I definitely think the first part is better. Not that the second part is bad, but yeah, I really think this was a great change up for the series at the time, because the first two were kind of identical, if you ask me.
Okay, yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's kind of common, right? Where I know there's exceptions, like Zelda 2 is an exception, but a lot of times sequels are really just the first game with, you know, some engine upgrades. Mm-hmm. Which kind of makes sense. Like, you've created a game, you didn't expect it to be a hit. It is, so you kind of put out something in that same engine, and then by the time you're ready for a third game, you know, you want to do something different.
Yeah, totally. I totally get it. And what was I going to say about this? Do you think this is the first game with a fast travel map?
Probably not, but it could be. You know, it's always weird because whenever you think of, like, you know, here's the first game to do X, you can almost always find some example of a game you forgot existed.
Oh, totally. Yeah. But I mean, I forget how many discs this game was on, but I do remember, like, any time I traveled, just the floppy disk crunching along and having to swap back and forth. And I'm trying to think, any other notes here that I have? You know, the ending is fine and all, but a good alternative ending would be, like, couldn't he have just taken over? Like, he taught himself spells. He had the wand and the magic spell book. He could have just dominated the world and been like a very powerful wizard and just lived in that castle. So that's probably the way I would have gone with it.
So what year was this game released?
I want to say, let's see, 86.
Okay, so I just found some random article called, like, The History of Fast Travel. It's on a site I've never heard of before, but it looks like a professional article. They are referencing Ultima 3 from 1983 as being the first example of fast travel.
I've never played that one.
It's on the NES as, I think, just Ultima. Maybe it's called Ultima 3, but it's on the NES. So yeah, because that would be before, like, warp pipes in Super Mario, which you could. I really wouldn't call those fast travel.
No, I wouldn't call them fast travel.
Level skip. I don't know. Distinction, very small distinction. But yeah, Ultima. There are a lot of things that Ultima invented. Mm-hmm. That I think Ultima, like, it's a very difficult series. But there are a couple other things where, you know, like, when I was playing Chrono Trigger, I read around the same time, I read an article about Ultima 2, and I'm like, man, you know, the plot of Chrono Trigger and Ultima 2 are actually extremely similar in some ways. like that was just a really innovative series, and you know, Richard Garriott clearly had a lot of very big ideas and the ability to implement them.
No, yeah, absolutely. Any King's Quest 3 comments?
So I really have never played this. I did go to watch some videos of it. So first I went to watch the speedrun record, and it's just annoying. Like, I think when you're talking about video game speedruns, especially for PC games, you shouldn't be allowed to do, like, CPU overclocking, essentially.
Yeah.
So the speedrun record is basically like, what if we ran this on a CPU with no clock, and it was, just a several gigahertz CPU. So it's just like, you have no idea what's going on. It's just it's like a seizure video. Like, it's just flashing stuff. There is a lot, the no commentary long play is like 45 minutes, which is like, you can watch over a couple lunch breaks. And that's actually pretty interesting. It's just playing the game at, obviously not the pace the developers intended, because this is someone who knows the whole solution already. But it's really good. Yeah, it's just a good, entertaining video game. Looks like it would have been very hard to figure out. I'm sure I would have died a billion times.
Well, I was 6 in 1986, and I mean, I beat it. It took a long time. I was obsessed with the game. I was in no hurry to beat it, but I eventually did. If you do go back and play this, there is a fan remake that works in Windows that has updated graphics, but it still looks pretty cool. And there's a lot of quality of life things, so you could kind of plow through it. And I do think if you play that remake, I would consider that you have played King's Quest 3. Like, it is that close.
Okay. All right.
Well, let's hop to your game.
Yeah, so I played NARC because it just seemed like something, I forget how it came up, but decided to try it out. I played the NES version, which maybe isn't the best one to play. This fits into the like one stage is enough category for me, where I played a level, I got, off the streets and into the subways, and I'm like, okay, I get it. I don't need to finish this whole game. Kind of a basic shooter. I remember both the NES version and the arcade version. I found it a little difficult to line up to hit the bad guys, the legions of drug dealers, I guess. So like I found, like, I don't know, getting on the exact same horizontal level as them was a little tricky for me sometimes.
Yeah.
But in the arcade game, you're basically just holding down fire, just hitting fire constantly and just mowing down, I mean, thousands and thousands of drug dealers. It's weird because I think the game is supposed to be set in Chicago and is built by Midway, who were in Chicago. Like, that's not really what the city's like that much. I'm not saying there aren't drug dealers, but it's not just hordes of them that all look exactly the same. Like, that part seemed a little bit perhaps unrealistic. It's all right, but the NES version, they also remove all the drug references. So
and guns from them,
you're
right?
sort of mowing down generic bad guys instead.
I said they look like flashers. Like,
yeah, they look like flashers, which we also don't. I've never actually seen a flasher anywhere in this area. Not that they don't exist, but... And I remember the arcade game. I remember seeing this like Aladdin's Castle and stuff, and I thought it looked pretty cool. And yeah, it's fun for me. I like it for a stage or two, but I can't really see playing through the entire thing.
Yeah.
The legacy hardware. The hardware, though, that's the big legacy of the game, right? So the hardware it used was reused for NBA Jam, Smash TV, Hard Drive, and Mortal Kombat. And this was like the first arcade game to use that particular set of hardware.
And it uses medium res, which is 384p.
Yeah.
Which, like, I mean, the other game I could think of is like Gauntlet Legends. Yeah. Weird game. Yeah. So good luck finding CRTs that do that.
Yeah.
What?
There are a lot of other ports. Which one did you play?
So I played. On the gosh, I forget if I tried the arcade one on the Mister or if I just watched a video. But then I definitely did the NES port. Mm-hmm. And the way he jumps out of the car is everything. Like, slamming the brakes and just doing a front flip out of the car is amazing. Do you think this game really confused Congress at the time? Because it's a lot of violence, but it's also getting rid of drugs?
It had to be, yeah. If you were against video games, certainly this is a mixed message.
Because, I mean, Just Say No was the thing at the time, right?
Just Say No, yeah. Yeah. Meanwhile, in Chicago, you can buy marijuana legally now.
Oh yeah, Michigan too. Yeah, it's not a thing anymore.
Yeah, because if you drive through Wisconsin, when you drive, I don't know if you've ever driven like north through Wisconsin. When you drive north through Wisconsin, there's billboards constantly for, keep driving to UP because you can buy weed. And when you drive south through Wisconsin, there's billboards saying keep going south to Illinois, you can buy weed.
Nice.
So I think Wisconsin at some point might realize they're missing out on a lot of tax revenue because they're surrounded by I think 3 states at this point where you can just buy marijuana at a store.
I think it's hilarious that like in the war on drugs, guess who won?
Yeah.
Drugs.
Yep, drugs won the war on drugs.
That is funny. So, but let's see, what else did I have in my notes here? The NES port really did feel like a very good 2600 game to me.
Yeah.
I don't know why the graphics could have been better on this.
Yeah, they were pretty good for NES, but they weren't, definitely not the best, no.
And when you kill a drug dog, they explode.
Yeah. I think that's to actually, it's stupid, but I think that's to reduce the violence level.
Yeah, it's not
because now you're killing like a robot. You're not killing a actual living dog.
Yeah. And then on the NES, the power-ups were too small for me to identify what they actually were.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's a one-stage game for me. That's about it.
Yeah, this is the kind of thing, like, I don't think Arcade Paradise, or whatever it's called, had a remake, had a version of this. But this is the kind of thing where, you could do like a one-stage version of this game and put it in a compilation like that, and it would be fine.
Yeah. Well, what do you think you're going to play next?
We're getting into Halloween season, so I'm going to do Zombies Ate My Neighbors, because I forgot that I bought that for Switch and just have it sitting here.
Yes. I'm going to do Haunted House on the 2600, and you mentioned that it's on Atari 50, a remake, so feel free to do that.
There's a remake on the original and a remake are on Atari 50.
And I'm not talking about the Odyssey 2 Haunted House.
Yeah.
Not that game. That's not a real game.
Okay. Well, I'm probably going to try the remake on Atari 50.
Cool. Well, if our listeners play any of these, please email us and let us know. Email at retrogameclub.net. We have not had many emails lately, so please, we miss you all. We used to have a lot of regulars writing in. I think I've offended everyone or something.
Something like that.
Bad breath or something. But I could get this first one from Nate. He wrote in because we talked about, I forget really the context. We talked about Limited Run. Maybe it was just that they release a bunch of games. Maybe it was that they are Embracer Group now, or that some of their games require download. But Nate released his last game on Limited Run, and he said it was just a fantastic experience. He's just a one-person solo dev, and they treated him like, he was a big publisher. They treat everyone with respect, and they worked really hard for him. And everything from the carts, the board, box, manual, etc. They took care of everything. He just said, like, top to bottom, it was a very positive experience for him. And they've been, like, I want to reiterate, like, if you go back, this isn't to Nate, this is to all the listeners. If you go back and listen to the episode, like, we weren't dogging on Limited Run or anything. We like them. They were on the podcast. We were just saying, like, it's not a preservation thing all the time anymore. You know what I mean? Which it seems like that's how they started,
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'll put it this way. Like, I think I expressed concern about them being purchased by Embracer Group because, in my experience, it's very rare that someone gets bought by a bigger company and the quality of their products improves.
Yeah. And it's good because I think this was after the Embracer Group stuff that Nate had this experience, so he
did, yeah. And they do a lot of good and interesting stuff. I think what's kind of weird is, like, I get their emails every week of new products coming out, and this last one was all about, hey, we ported Plumbers Don't Wear Ties to like every modern system. Which, when talking about game preservation, like, if you ported the if you reprinted like the 3DO or PC version in their original form, that's kind of neat. Maybe no one wants it. I don't know who wants this game. I'll just leave it at that. Like, I don't know who wants to buy a $90 limited edition of Plumbers Don't Wear Ties. Maybe they sell 100,000 copies and I'm just like a moron, right? But
Well,
it seems like a weird, like some of the things they do are weird. I actually like them a lot. Like, I mean, I bought something like 5 different copies of Night Trap from them. So
same,
right?
Yeah.
You know, I buy a lot of games. So I just bought Quake from them. I pre-ordered Quake Remake from them. So there's some logic how somehow they figure out like, okay, we think we can sell this many copies of this thing. I think the Jurassic Park stuff they did recently is really cool. Mm-hmm. They did a bunch of TMNT stuff recently too.
Yep.
So like they do a lot of great stuff. My only concern is what happens as they become part, you know, does Embracer say, oh, wait a minute, we could squeeze a couple more cents out of limited run games by getting rid of their, you know, some of their warehouse workers or whatever. And now games take long. Like, I just don't know where that's going to go. But overall, I'm a big fan of their products. I mean, I get their emails and have definitely spent a lot of money. Like I said, the thing I wish they would get into, or that someone would get into, would be like a Play Asia style service of selling games that got US releases but didn't get US physical releases, but for some reason Asia got a physical release in English. Mm-hmm. Like, I would kind of like to see. I wonder if there's an opportunity for someone to step into that business.
I spend a lot of money on Play Asia.
Yeah. I just bought the final. I think I mentioned I just bought the Final Fantasy collection because I wanted a physical copy. And
that showed up yesterday for me.
Yeah, and again, the Asian copy, for whatever reason, has English, and they aren't selling it in the U.S. for reasons. I have no clue what the reasons are.
I think it's funny that, you know, not funny, but, you know, Embracer Group is shuttering a few studios.
Yeah.
I wonder where limited runs sits in that, because I feel like they probably sit at the top of probably one of the most successful purchases Embracer has done. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they're probably like, oh yeah, limited run games has got this. We'll just let them do their thing. I don't know.
Well, that's sort of interesting because, yeah, I guess like I read that they had a bunch of Crystal Dynamics layoffs this week. Like, you could use limited run games to reprint a whole bunch of their classic games, like whatever you think people are going to buy. Mm-hmm. Like they could definitely use limited run games to put out IP that they already own, mm-hmm. which is definitely cheaper for them. And I can't remember. Crystal Dynamics owns Tomb Raider, right?
Do they still?
Yeah, maybe they don't, because I saw one of the many remakes, you know, in Nintendo Direct was Tomb Raider.
Yeah, on Switch. Yeah, I'm actually excited for that one.
Yeah, I mean, that's one where I watched the Nintendo Direct with my youngest kid, and she had never heard of Tomb Raider. That makes you feel old. She was just like, what's that?
Wow.
I'm like, well, it's this old open... Never mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Crystal Dynamics has a lot of good... I mean, they have, well, the Horde, Gax, Samurai... They own Samurai Showdown. That's weird. I didn't realize that was... They owned that IP.
Yeah, that's strange.
I don't know. Maybe they were just a publisher. But yeah, anyhow, there's a lot of stuff you could put out under limited run games that they already own the rights to.
But thanks, Nate, for that email. I appreciated the feedback and hearing your perspective on it. And I definitely agree.
Let's see. Majors writes in, Rob forgetting what he dislikes about an old game, so he has to play it again to remember what he dislikes. Can you talk about that?
I can't even remember. I'm very forgetful, so that tracks.
Okay. All right. American Gladiators is a knockoff of Ninja Warrior. Or they were on. He said something like, a lot of television that gets remade for Western audience, they lose some magic of the original. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. If you watch one of the American Gladiators documentaries, it seems like they're actually ripping off like some kind of steelworker games from Pennsylvania.
Weird, but that makes sense.
Yeah, because it was like a bunch of like steelworkers would get together once a year and have like these events where they competed in physical challenges and slammed into each other a lot. And it seems like a lot of those events are very similar to what you see in American Gladiators.
Yeah.
We asked on social media, what's the furthest you've traveled for a retro game related thing or event? And Majors mentions he went to California Extreme from Winston-Salem. So that's a pretty big thing. And then also he's got anywhere from 30 minutes to 13 hours of driving and has made trips to Japan and China to buy some equipment. But for actual events, it's North Carolina to California.
That is crazy, but cool.
That is. I mean, by plane, it's not too bad. But has some feedback on NARC. So he always enjoys the visuals and resolution of NARC, but the gameplay was a bit stiff, and it's kind of a quarter muncher, right? Especially in the arcade. Yeah. It came out in '88 along with the Just Say No to Drugs campaign and fits the era. Firing rockets at dumpsters is still oddly satisfying.
In real life, too.
Yeah, in real life. This is the thing I did not know. He says he's never beat the last boss because the boss's energy resets when you continue.
Oh, I did not know that yet.
Yeah, I've never made it that far.
I did want to mention that the big skull head boss is insane in NARC.
Okay.
I don't know if that's the last boss or not.
I don't think so. He says the last boss is someone called Mr. Big.
But I don't know if Mr. Big turns into a skull, kind of like, Star Wars on NES, Darth Vader turning into a bat. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, thanks for reminding me of that. I wasn't really wasn't thinking about that. I've kind of blocked that from my memory. Was that based on maybe some early Star Wars, like... There's a book I listened to on a road trip recently about like the secret history of Star Wars, and it talks about a lot of like early Star Wars ideas that ended up getting scrapped. I don't think Darth Vader turning into a bat was one of them, but he did have like a castle.
Well, he has a castle now, right?
Yeah, I suppose the Obi-Wan show, they bring that back, right? I haven't seen the new Star Wars, whatever the new Star Wars thing is on Disney. I haven't seen that yet. Mm-hmm. The last one I saw was the Obi-Wan show. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I think maybe some of those concepts got into the Obi-Wan show. Mm-hmm. I don't think he had a bat, though. I don't think there were bats involved. I have to I don't know. On a social media question, a few other things. Someone mentions about furthest you've traveled. Someone mentions going all the way out to Boise, Idaho to go to the Museum of Pinball. You mentioned, is this you? Detroit to Milwaukee,
yes.
But then didn't go because there was a blizzard.
Yeah, that's me. Yeah, I actually did that trip twice, and both times there was a blizzard because my sister lives not far from there, so I could just crash there. And then each time it was like, oh, there's a blizzard's coming, so I either have to wait like an extra day or two to drive home, or just leave now and beat the blizzard because I'd be ahead of the weather. Like, I need to get home.
I drove in the blizzard. I didn't really care. I had a spot hero. I had a spot in like a covered garage, so I didn't really like. Yeah.
But you're not that far from it. I'd have to drive back to Detroit.
Yeah. Once I get there and I'm in the garage, it's just, okay, it's me a slow drive back, but whatever. And if you look at it, so by the way, Midwest Game Classic, they signed like an extension for, I think they said 5 years at that facility. So they're going to be around for a while.
Good. And then
those blizzard years, darn near wiped them out.
I believe it. Yeah. And then COVID after that.
Yeah.
Well, our next listener question, we have one ahead of time because I was doing some retro achievement stuff. There's actually some drama on Retro Achievements GitHub issues page. Yeah, because their API, I guess, is a bit weird. It's like an all or nothing thing. The same reason why we don't like Node NPM. Like if you want one thing, it gives you everything. And so it's been crashing a little bit. And so they're reworking a lot of that. But yeah, everyone's being pretty cordial, but you could kind of read between the lines where people are like, can you make this a little better, please? But anyway, the next listener question is, do any of you listeners use Retro Achievements? If you'd like to share your username on it so we could follow each other, please do. And again, if you want to write in about playing Haunted House or Zombies Ate My Neighbor, NARC, Zombies Ate My Neighbor, like one neighbor, it's just one guy that got eaten. King's Quest 3, if you love Space Invaders, Gargoyles, if you want more fan translations from Asia, or if you have comments about Play Asia or limited run games, all that stuff we talked about, email us, email@retrogameclub.net. That is email@retrogameclub.net. And I think that pretty much wraps it up.
Yeah, I think so. So thanks for listening.